The morning sky turned dark at exactly 9 o'clock. Daewon looked up from his workbench and saw the massive ships blocking out the sun. They were bigger than mountains, black and silver, hanging in the air like they owned the world. He dropped his wrench and ran outside with everyone else in the village. His sister Jiwoo grabbed his arm. Her face was pale. "What are they?" she whispered. Daewon did not answer because he did not know. Nobody knew. The ships just floated there, silent and terrible. Then the voice came. It spoke in every language at once, booming from the sky itself. "People of Earth, we are the Dominion Empire. Your planet is now under our control. Surrender immediately. Resistance will be met with destruction. You have 1 hour to comply." The village erupted in panic. People ran in all directions. Some screamed. Others fell to their knees and prayed. Daewon stood still, watching the ships. He was an engineer. He built things, fixed things, understood how things worked. These ships were technology beyond anything Earth had ever made. But they were still just machines. Machines could break. "Daewon, we need to go inside," Jiwoo said, pulling at him. "Wait," he said. "Look at the smaller ships." Dozens of shuttlecraft were descending from the massive vessels. They moved in perfect formation, heading towards cities and towns all over the world. 3 of them were coming straight toward the village. Yoon-soo, the village elder, walked up beside them. He was old but strong, with gray hair and sharp eyes. He had been a military man once, many years ago. "They will come here to see what we have," he said calmly. "Stay calm. Watch them closely. Learn everything you can." The shuttles landed in the village square 20 minutes later. They were sleek and smooth, without any visible engines or weapons. But Daewon could feel the heat radiating from them. Advanced propulsion systems. Probably fusion-based. A door opened in the side of one shuttle. A creature stepped out. It was tall, maybe 7 feet, with blue-gray skin and 4 arms. Its head was elongated, with large black eyes that seemed to look through everything. It wore armor that shimmered with energy. Behind it came more of these creatures, all armed with weapons that hummed with power. The lead creature pulled out a device and pointed it at the crowd of humans. The device made a scanning sound. The creature looked at the results and made a sound that might have been laughter. "Primitives," it said in perfect Korean. The device was translating. "Look at this village. Wooden buildings. Chemical combustion vehicles. Electronic computers barely past their infancy. Your entire species is centuries behind civilized standards." Yoon-soo stepped forward. "We welcome you as—" "Silence," the creature interrupted. "I am Commander Velthar. You do not speak unless given permission. This planet and everything on it now belongs to the Dominion Empire. Your resources will be cataloged. Your useful materials will be extracted. Your people will comply or be removed." The commander gestured to his soldiers. They spread out through the village, scanning everything with their devices. When they found anything electronic or mechanical, they took it. Computers, phones, tools, vehicles. They piled everything in the center of the square. Daewon watched them take his workbench, his tools, everything he had built over the years. His hands curled into fists. Jiwoo held his arm tighter. "Do not," she whispered. "Please." One of the soldiers grabbed old Mrs. Park's medical scanner. She was a doctor. She needed that equipment. She tried to explain, reaching for it. The soldier casually pushed her. She fell hard on the ground. No one moved to help her. They were all too afraid. Daewon started forward, but Yoon-soo caught him. The old man's grip was iron. "Not now," he hissed. "Watch. Learn. Your time will come." Commander Velthar stood in the center of the square, looking at the pile of confiscated technology. "This is the best your species has produced?" He laughed again. "The Dominion has bacteria with more advanced tools. You are not even worth negotiating with. You are simply primitive." The commander walked past Daewon, so close he could smell the alien's strange scent. Velthar glanced at him briefly, dismissively, the way someone might glance at an insect. Then the aliens returned to their shuttles and lifted off, heading to the next village. The crowd stood in shocked silence for a long time. Then someone started crying. Then everyone was crying or shouting or just sitting on the ground in despair. Daewon did not cry. He walked to where the aliens had stood and knelt down, examining the burn marks their shuttles had left on the ground. He pulled out a small knife and scraped at the scorched earth, collecting a sample. Jiwoo came over and sat beside him. "What are you doing?" she asked. "Looking," he said. "Their ships use thermal exhaust. That means heat buildup. That means cooling systems. That means vulnerabilities. Day one, did you see their weapons? Their armor? Their ships? Yes. We cannot fight them. Maybe. He stood up and looked at the sky where the massive ships still blocked the sun. But they called us primitive. They think we are not worth their attention. That might be useful. Hyunsu walked over. His face was hard. Come with me, both of you. They followed him to his house. Inside, he pulled out an old book. Military history. He opened it to a page showing ancient Korean warriors using fire arrows and stone catapults against invaders with superior armor and horses. I fought in wars. Hyunsu said quietly. I learned that the side with better weapons does not always win. Sometimes the side that wants it more wins. Sometimes the side that thinks differently wins. He looked at Day One. You are smart. You understand machines. Start thinking about their machines. Over the next few days, the situation got worse. The Dominion ship sent down more soldiers. They built facilities in major cities. They started taking resources, minerals, metals, water. They made announcements that humans would need to work in their extraction facilities. Anyone who refused would be punished. World governments tried to fight back. Military jets attacked the Dominion ships. The attacks did nothing. The ships had shields that made every missile and bullet simply disappear in flashes of light. The Dominion retaliated by destroying entire military bases with beams of energy fired from orbit. Thousands died in seconds. The message was clear. Resistance was impossible, but Daewon did not stop watching. Every time a Dominion shuttle flew over the village, he studied it. He noticed they always flew the same patterns. He noticed their shields flickered slightly when they entered the atmosphere. He noticed the pilots seemed bored, not paying attention, confident that nothing could threaten them. One night, Jiwoo came to his room. She had been working at her research facility, studying plants and farming techniques. They destroyed my lab today, she said. Her voice was empty. They said it was taking up space they needed. They just destroyed it. Years of research gone. Daewon hugged her. She cried on his shoulder. When she finally stopped, he said, I am going to find a way. A way to what? To hurt them. To show them we are not just primitives to push around. How? We have nothing. We have our minds. We have physics. We have determination. He pulled out papers covered in sketches and calculations. And we have history. Do you remember the story of David and Goliath? The boy with the sling who killed the giant? Yes, sometimes the simple weapon works because no one expects it. Jiwoo looked at the papers. She saw designs for something that looked like a giant slingshot. You cannot be serious. I am completely serious, Daewon said. They think we are primitive. Let us show them what primitives can do. 3 months passed since the Dominion arrived. The world changed in terrible ways. Cities had alien facilities rising from their centers like metal weeds. Humans worked in mines and refineries, extracting materials for the Empire. Anyone who complained disappeared. Food became scarce because the aliens took whatever they wanted. Governments collapsed. Only the Dominion's rules mattered now. Daewon's village was relocated. Dominion soldiers came with their hovering transports and forced everyone to move to a work camp near one of their supply depots. The camp was surrounded by energy fences that burned anyone who touched them. Guards watched from towers. Every morning the humans marched to work. Every night they returned exhausted. But something unexpected happened in those 3 months. Humans started fighting back, not with armies or missiles. Those had all failed. Instead, small groups formed, resistance cells. They hid in the shadows, stealing supplies, sabotaging equipment, gathering information. They could not win battles, but they could make life difficult for the occupiers. Daewon joined a resistance cell in the camp. The leader was a young woman named Tai-min. She had been a computer programmer before the invasion. Now she was a hacker, one of the best. She could break into Dominion communication systems and steal their data. We got something important, Taemin said during a secret meeting in an abandoned storage room. She showed them a holographic display she had stolen from a Dominion officer. Look at this. All their ships are connected. They use something called a synchronized shield matrix. Explain it simply, said Hyunsu. The old man had come to the camp too. He advised the resistance on strategy. Their shields talk to each other, Taemin said. When one ship detects a threat, all the shields adjust together. That is why our missiles did nothing. The shields were ready for them. Another resistance member spoke up. Her name was Sunhee, and she had been a physicist at a university. The Dominion had destroyed her research facility, but she still had her mind. I have been studying the equipment they throw away, she said. Their shields need constant energy calibration. They adjust hundreds of times per second based on incoming threats. So they are unbreakable, someone said. No, Sunhee replied. Nothing is unbreakable. Every system has weaknesses. We just need to find them. Daewon leaned forward. What happens during calibration? Sunhee smiled. Good question. There must be a brief moment when the shield adjusts. A gap. Very small. Microseconds, probably. Can we exploit that? Maybe. If we could predict exactly when the calibration happens and hit them in that exact moment, with something they do not expect. The group fell silent. It sounded impossible. How could they predict something that happened in microseconds? And even if they could, what weapon did they have that the Dominion shields had never seen before? Daewon thought about his designs. The giant slingshot, a kinetic weapon, no electronics, no heat signature, just mass and velocity. Would the shields even recognize it as a threat? He did not share this thought yet. It was too early. He needed more information. Over the following weeks, Daewon collected materials. He worked in the supply depot, moving crates and loading transports. The guards thought he was just another primitive worker, too stupid to cause trouble. They did not watch him carefully. That was their mistake. He collected scraps, pieces of carbon fiber cable, fragments of titanium, polymer springs from damaged equipment. He hid everything in a secret spot under the floor of his barracks. At night, while others slept, he worked on designs by candlelight. Jiwoo helped him. Her botanical research gave her an understanding of natural materials and structures. Bamboo, she said one night. It is incredibly strong for its weight. If we could combine it with the materials you are collecting, we could build something, Daewon finished. Something they would never expect. But they needed more than materials. They needed a target, a meaningful target. Something that would hurt the Dominion, not just annoy them. The answer came from an unexpected source. The Dominion decided to make an example. They announced that any humans caught sabotaging their equipment would be executed publicly. They gathered everyone in the camp to watch. 10 prisoners were brought out. Resistance members who had been caught planting explosives. Hyun-soo was among them. Daewon tried to run forward, but guards held him back. Jiwoo screamed. The crowd surged, but the energy weapons fired warning shots and everyone froze. The Dominion commander for the region, a massive alien named Admiral Krovan, stood before the prisoners. He was even bigger than Commander Veltar, with scars across his armor and a voice like grinding metal. Look at these primitives, Krovan said, his translator broadcasting to everyone. They think they can resist the Dominion Empire. They think their pathetic efforts matter. Let me show you how wrong you are. One by one, the prisoners were executed. Quick shots of energy. They did not suffer long, but each death felt like a knife in Daewon's heart. When they brought Hyun-soo forward, the old man did not look afraid. He looked directly at Daewon. His lips moved, forming words without sound. Daewon could read them clearly. David and Goliath. Then the energy beam hit him, and Hyun-soo was gone. The crowd stood in horror. Admiral Krovan smiled. This is the fate of all who resist. Remember this. The Dominion is eternal. You are nothing. That night, the camp was silent. People mourned. The resistance cell met in secret, devastated. We cannot win, someone said. They are too strong. No, Daewon said quietly. Everyone looked at him. Hyun-soo told me something before he died. A reminder. Sometimes the small can defeat the large. Sometimes the simple defeats the complex. With what? Taemin demanded. We have no weapons that can hurt them. We do not need their weapons. We need physics. He explained his plan. The giant slingshot. A kinetic weapon that would use mechanical force. not electronics. Something so simple that their advanced shields might not even recognize it as a threat until too late. The room was quiet. Then Sun He said, "It could work. If we could calculate the trajectory perfectly. If we could time it with the shield calibration gap. If we could build it without them noticing. That is a lot of ifs." "I know," Daewon said, "but it is a chance. And right now a chance is more than we had this morning." Taemin nodded slowly. "I can hack their communication systems. I can track their ship's movements. I can create sensor blind spots. I can calculate the physics," Sun He added. "The velocity, angle, timing, all of it. But we need a target. Which ship do we aim for?" "The flagship," Daewon said immediately. "Admiral Krovan's ship. The Eternal Dominance. If we can destroy that, it will throw their whole fleet into chaos." "That ship is the size of a city," someone protested. "How will we even reach it?" "It comes into lower orbit every week," Jiwoo said. She had been quiet until now. "I saw the pattern. They do resource transfers. The flagship descends to collect processed materials from the surface facilities. It follows the same route every time." Taemin pulled up her stolen data. "She is right. Next transfer is in 2 weeks. The flagship will pass directly over the northern mountain range." Sun He did quick calculations. "If we position ourselves on the highest peak, if we build the weapon large enough, if everything goes perfectly, we might have one shot. Literally one shot. Then we make it count," Daewon said. The plan was insane. Everyone knew it. They were going to build a giant slingshot to shoot at a spaceship the size of a mountain. It sounded like something from a fantasy story. But it was all they had. Over the next 2 weeks, they worked in secret. Daewon and his team snuck materials out of the camp. They used the resistance network to transport everything to the mountains. Other cells provided distraction and cover. They worked at night hidden in caves. They built the frame from salvaged metal beams. They wove the cables from carbon fiber and natural materials. They calculated and recalculated every measurement. Sun He spent days running simulations. The projectile needs to be dense. Very dense. Tungsten carbide would be ideal. They did not have tungsten carbide, but they knew someone who might. Young-ho was a metallurgist. He worked in one of the Dominion's metal processing facilities. When the Resistance contacted him, he agreed to help immediately. "My family died in the first week," he said simply. "I have been waiting for a chance to fight back." He stole materials and tools. In a hidden basement, he forged the projectile. It took him 5 days of constant work. The result was a cylinder of compressed metal, aerodynamically shaped, incredibly dense. It weighed 200 kilograms. "This will punch through anything," Young-ho said, handing it over. "If it hits, it will hit," Daewon promised. They transported the projectile to the mountain. The weapon was almost complete. Taemin confirmed the flagship's route. Sun He finalized the calculations. Everything was ready. Then, the day before the shot, Dominion soldiers increased their patrols. They were searching for something. Someone had talked or they had detected unusual activity. The resistance cell made a hard decision. They would proceed as planned. If they waited, the opportunity might never come again. Daewon stood on the mountain peak looking at their creation. It was crude compared to Dominion technology. It was basically a giant medieval weapon with some modern enhancements. But Hyun-soo's words echoed in his mind. Sometimes simple works. "Tomorrow," he said to his team. "Tomorrow we show them that primitives can bite back." The weapon stood on the mountain peak like a monument to human stubbornness. It was ugly and brutal, made from stolen parts and desperate hope. 3 massive frames formed a triangle, each one 20 meters tall. Carbon fiber cables thick as a man's arm stretched between them, creating tension that hummed in the wind. At the center sat the cradle that would hold the projectile. Below that, electromagnetic coils salvaged from Dominion equipment would give the initial boost. The rest would be pure kinetic energy. Daewon checked every connection for the 100th time. His hands shook slightly. Not from fear, from exhaustion. They had worked for 2 weeks straight with barely any sleep. His team looked the same. Jiwoo had dark circles under her eyes. Young-ho's hands were burned from forging the projectile. Sun He kept adjusting her glasses and muttering calculations. "The math is perfect," Sun He said, though she sounded like she was trying to convince herself. "When the flagship enters the lower orbit, it will pass through this exact corridor. The shield will calibrate to atmospheric entry. We will have .3 seconds. That is our window. .3 seconds, Taemin repeated. She sat with her stolen computer equipment watching Dominion communications. I will tell you exactly when. The shields broadcast their calibration status. I can track it. What if they change their route? Jiwoo asked. They will not, Taemin said. I have watched them for months. The Dominion follows patterns. They are so confident that nothing can hurt them. They do not bother with unpredictability. Daewon loaded the projectile into the cradle. The tungsten carbide cylinder gleamed in the morning light. It looked too small to hurt something as massive as the flagship. But Sunhee had explained the physics. At the velocity they would achieve, this projectile would carry as much energy as a nuclear weapon. Pure kinetic force. Mass times velocity squared. Simple and devastating. How long until the flagship arrives? Daewon asked. Taemin checked her screens. 4 hours. They are beginning their descent now. 4 hours. Daewon felt his stomach tighten. This was really happening. They were going to shoot at a spaceship with what was basically a giant slingshot. It sounded insane. It probably was insane. Young-ho came up beside him. Do you think it will work? I do not know, Daewon answered honestly. But I know we have to try. Good enough. Young-ho smiled. My wife would have liked you. She always said the best engineers were the ones crazy enough to try impossible things. They waited. The sun climbed higher. The wind picked up. Far below, they could see the Dominion work camps like scars on the landscape. Thousands of humans forced to labor for alien masters. Daewon thought about Hyunsoo, about the old man's last words, about all the people who had died in these 3 months. This shot was for them. At 3 hours, Taemin announced, Flagship confirmed on approach. They are broadcasting standard entry protocols. No sign they suspect anything. At 2 hours, Jiwoo started the final calibration. She climbed onto the weapon frame, adjusting the angle with precision instruments they had stolen. Every millimeter mattered. 1 degree off and the projectile would miss by kilometers. At 1 hour, Sunhee activated the electromagnetic coils. They hummed to life, drawing power from a bank of batteries they had charged over weeks. The sound made Daewon's teeth ache. Everyone take positions, he said. The team spread out. They each had jobs. Taemin would call the timing. Sunhee would monitor the physics. Jiwoo would handle final alignment. Young-ho and 2 other resistance fighters, Bo-ra and Miran, would provide security. Miran had been an athlete before the invasion, and she understood trajectories in ways that helped with the final calculations. At 30 minutes, they saw it. The flagship appeared on the horizon like a second sun. It was enormous, easily 5 kilometers long. Black metal covered in glowing energy patterns. Smaller ships flew around it like insects around a beast. The sight made everyone fall silent. Target acquired, Jiwoo said quietly. Her voice shook slightly. The flagship moved slowly, majestically, completely unaware of the threat waiting below. Why would it notice? What could primitives do against such power? At 10 minutes, Taemin said, picking up shield frequencies. They are operating normally. Confidence is at maximum. No alerts. At 5 minutes, Miran spotted movement. We have company. Ground patrol. 3 vehicles approaching from the east, Daewon cursed. How far? 5 kilometers. They will be here in 10 minutes. We fire in 5. Bo-ra, Young-ho, keep them busy. Do not let them reach us before the shot. The 2 resistance fighters grabbed weapons, not Dominion technology. They had old human rifles, practically antiques compared to energy weapons. But bullets still worked at a distance. At 3 minutes, the flagship was directly overhead. It blocked out the sky. The shadow fell across the mountain. The sound of its engines was like thunder that never stopped. Entering optimal range, Sunhee announced, 2 minutes to firing window. At 2 minutes, they heard gunfire. Bo-ra and Young-ho had engaged the patrol. Energy weapons answered, bright flashes lighting up the mountainside. The Dominion soldiers had found them. We need more time, Jiwoo shouted. We do not have more time, Daewon shouted back. Get ready. At 1 minute, a Dominion soldier appeared at the edge of their position. Young-ho tackled him. They fought, rolling across the rocky ground. The alien was stronger, but Young-ho fought like a man with nothing to lose. Bo-ra shot another soldier, but more kept coming. 30 seconds, Sunhee said. Shield calibration beginning now. The flagship's shields shimmered, adjusting to atmospheric density. Taemin's screen showed the data stream, reading the calibration pattern. Calculating optimal moment, standby. 20 seconds. A Dominion soldier shot Young-ho in the leg. He went down screaming. Miran dragged him away from the edge, returning fire with one hand. 15 seconds. More soldiers arrived. They saw the weapon. Their eyes went wide with realization. They started shooting at the frame structure. Shields calibrating, Taemin shouted. 10 seconds to window, 10 seconds. An energy blast hit one of the support frames. Sparks flew. The entire structure shuddered. Integrity holding, Jiwoo reported, her voice tight. 5 seconds. The soldiers were closing in. Day One could see their faces now. Blue-gray and twisted with anger. How dare these primitives resist? 4, Taemin counted. 3. A soldier reached the weapon platform. Bora shot him point blank. He fell backward. 2. Another blast hit the frame. Metal groaned. The angle shifted slightly. Compensating, Jiwoo said, adjusting frantically. 1. Daewon's hand hovered over the firing mechanism. It was a simple lever. Pull it, and the electromagnetic coils would fire. The cables would release. The projectile would launch. Everything they had worked for came down to this moment. Now, Taemin screamed. Daewon pulled the lever. The electromagnetic coils fired with a sound like the sky breaking. The cables released with a crack that echoed across the mountains. The projectile shot upward so fast it seemed to simply disappear. Then the weapon frame exploded from the recoil. The force was enormous. The structure tore itself apart. Pieces of metal flew in every direction. Daewon was thrown backward, hitting the ground hard. His ears rang. His vision blurred. He forced himself to look up. The projectile was still visible, a silver streak climbing into the sky. It moved faster than any bullet, faster than sound, so fast it glowed from air friction. Above them, the flagship continued its slow passage. Its shields shimmered, finishing their calibration cycle. The projectile reached it in 2 seconds. For a moment, nothing happened. The tiny streak of metal touched the massive energy shield. Then it passed through. The shield had calibrated. It was ready for missiles, for energy weapons, for any technology the Dominion had ever faced. It was not ready for a 200-kilogram tungsten carbide projectile moving at hypersonic velocity. The shield's sensors did not recognize it as a threat until it was already inside. The projectile hit the flagship's hull. It punched through armor plating like paper. It traveled through 3 decks in microseconds. Then it hit something critical. The explosion started small. A flash of light deep inside the ship. Then it grew and grew. The antimatter containment chamber had been breached. Daewon watched in awe as the flagship tore itself apart from the inside. The explosion was beautiful and terrible. Blue-white energy ripped through the massive vessel. Pieces of metal the size of buildings flew away. Secondary explosions chain-reacted across the hull. The smaller escort ship scattered in panic. The flagship's front section broke off. Then the rear. The whole middle disappeared in another massive detonation. The sound reached them seconds later. A roar that made the mountains shake. Jiwoo grabbed Daewon's arm. "You did it," she whispered. "You actually did it." But there was no time to celebrate. The Dominion soldiers on the ground had seen what happened. They were screaming into their communicators. More energy blasts hit near the weapon's remains. "We need to move," Miran shouted. She had Young-ho over her shoulder. He was bleeding badly. "Go," Daewon said. "Everyone down the mountain now," they ran. Behind them, the Dominion soldiers fired. Above them, debris from the flagship started falling, burning meteors that lit up the sky. The mountain itself seemed to be collapsing as Dominion forces retaliated blindly. Daewon looked back once. He saw Young-ho slip from Miran's shoulder. The metallurgist hit the ground and did not get up. "Young-ho!" Daewon started back, but Jiwoo grabbed him. "He is gone," she said, tears on her face. "We have to keep moving." They ran through smoke and fire and falling debris. Behind them, the mountain peak exploded as Dominion orbital strikes tried to destroy the weapon that had already done its job. They made it to the cave system they had prepared as an escape route. As they disappeared underground, Daewon took one last look at the sky. The flagship was gone, completely destroyed. Smaller pieces still burned in the atmosphere. The primitives had struck back, and the galaxy would never look at humanity the same way again. The flagship burned in the sky for 6 hours before it finally fell from orbit. Pieces of it spread across 3 continents. The explosions lit up the night like artificial sunrise. Every human on Earth saw it. Every Dominion soldier saw it too. The impossible had happened. Daewon and his team hid in the caves for 2 days. They had food and water stored there, but not much else. Young Ho's body remained on the mountain, buried under Dominion rubble. They had no way to retrieve him. Miran cried for hours. He had been her friend since childhood. He died so we could succeed, Jiwoo said quietly, sitting beside Miran in the darkness. He knew the risks. We all did. It does not make it hurt less, Miran replied. No, it did not. But the mission had worked. That was what mattered. That was what Young Ho had died for. On the third day, Taimin's stolen communication equipment picked up Dominion broadcasts. She listened with headphones, translating for the others. They are panicking, she said, her eyes wide. Complete chaos. Admiral Krovan is dead. The entire command structure was on that flagship. The other ships do not know what to do. What about their shields? Sun He asked. The synchronized matrix? That is the beautiful part, Taimin smiled grimly. The flagship was the central hub. It coordinated all the shield frequencies. Without it, each ship has to operate independently. Their shields still work, but not as efficiently. They are vulnerable. Daewon felt hope spark in his chest.
How vulnerable?
Vulnerable enough that maybe, just maybe, other resistance cells can hurt them now. She was right. Over the next week, attacks happened worldwide. Resistance groups that had been hiding struck at Dominion facilities. They used bombs, sabotage, stolen weapons. The aliens fought back hard, but they were disorganized. Ships collided because communication protocols failed. Facilities shut down because the central command was gone. The perfect machine that was the Dominion Empire had lost a critical piece, and it showed. In Seoul, resistance fighters destroyed a major power plant. In Cairo, they freed 10,000 prisoners from work camps. In São Paulo, they hijacked Dominion transports and drove them into the ocean. Small victories, but they added up. Daewon's team eventually left the caves. They traveled carefully, avoiding patrols. The Dominion was searching for whoever destroyed their flagship. They did not know it was a primitive weapon built on a mountain. They thought it must have been some secret human weapon, some hidden technology. They could not imagine the truth. When they finally reached a resistance safe house, they found themselves treated like legends. Word had spread. The story grew with each telling. Someone shot down the flagship. Someone proved the Dominion could be hurt. Was it you? A young resistance fighter asked Daewon. Did you really destroy the Eternal Dominance? Daewon did not know how to answer. It felt strange to be treated like a hero when Young Ho was dead. When Hyun-soo was dead. When thousands of others had died fighting. It was all of us, he finally said. Everyone who resisted. Everyone who refused to give up. That is what destroyed their flagship. But the young fighter's eyes showed he wanted a hero, someone to believe in. So Daewon let him believe. The weeks passed. The Dominion's grip on Earth weakened. Not quickly, not completely, but noticeably. Ships started leaving orbit. Some facilities shut down. The aliens were consolidating, pulling back to stronger positions. Taimin discovered why. She intercepted a communication from deep space. Empress Dalvera herself is responding, Taimin said during a Resistance Council meeting, the leader of the entire Dominion Empire. She is sending a diplomatic envoy. Diplomatic? Someone laughed bitterly. They did not want diplomacy before. They wanted slaves. They want it now, Taimin replied, because 17 other species in the galaxy heard what happened here. 17 other conquered worlds are rising up. They see Earth as proof that the Dominion can be beaten. The room fell silent. The implications were enormous. Earth's rebellion was not just about Earth anymore. It was inspiring a galaxy. 6 months after the flagship's destruction, the Dominion fleet withdrew from Earth orbit. Not completely. They left some ships, some facilities, but the occupation ended. The extraction operation stopped. Humans were allowed to govern themselves again, though under Dominion observation. And then Empress Dalvera herself came. Her ship was different from the warships. It was sleek and elegant with diplomatic markings. It landed not in a military zone but in Switzerland, at the site of the old United Nations building that the Dominion had destroyed months before. The Empress requested a meeting. Not with government leaders. She wanted to meet the one who destroyed her flagship. She wanted to meet the primitive who proved her empire was not invincible. She wanted to meet Daewon. The resistance debated for days. Was it a trap? Would the Dominion capture or kill him? But Daewon had already decided. I will go, he said. If there is any chance to end this without more death, I have to try. Jiwoo grabbed his hand. Then I am coming with you. No. Yes. You do not get to be the only one who risks everything. He looked at his sister. She had lost her research, her home, nearly her life, but she still stood strong. He nodded. The meeting was held in a temporary structure built on the ruins. Security was everywhere. Human soldiers and Dominion guards watched each other with barely contained hostility. Daewon and Jiwoo walked through the tension, flanked by Sunhee and Taimin, who insisted on coming as witnesses. Empress Dalvera waited inside. She was taller than the other Dominion aliens Daewon had seen, with skin that shimmered silver blue. Her forearms were adorned with complex jewelry that seemed to move on its own. Her black eyes studied them with intelligence that was almost frightening. "You are the one called Daewon," she said. Her translator made her voice sound like music and steel combined. "Yes," he replied, refusing to be intimidated. "You built a primitive weapon and destroyed my flagship. You killed Admiral Krovan and 40,000 soldiers. You used Stone Age technology against the most advanced fleet in the galaxy." She paused. "And you succeeded." "It was not Stone Age technology," Daewon said. "It was physics. Physics does not care about advancement. It just is." Something that might have been a smile crossed the Empress's face. "Indeed, we forgot that in our arrogance. We have technology so advanced that we forgot the universe itself has rules that cannot be denied." She walked around him, studying him from all angles. "Do you know what you have done? I defended my home. You did more than that. You reminded the galaxy that the Dominion is not invincible. You proved that technology can be beaten by determination and intelligence. Do you understand what that means?" "It means you are in trouble." The Empress actually laughed. It was a strange sound. "Yes, we are in trouble. 17 species are in open rebellion. Our fleets are stretched thin. Our resources are strained. All because one primitive with a slingshot showed everyone that we can be hurt." She stopped in front of him, looking down. Even though she was taller, Daewon did not feel small. "So I have come here to make a deal," Dalvera said. "The Dominion Empire will recognize Earth's sovereignty. We will withdraw completely. We will pay reparations for the damage we caused. In exchange, you will help us." "Help you?" Daewon almost laughed. "Why would we help you?" "Because the alternative is worse. If our empire collapses completely, there will be war across 1,000 worlds, chaos, suffering beyond measure. Better to reform than to fall." She leaned closer. "And because you, Daewon, understand something that I am only now learning. Power without wisdom leads to destruction. We have power. You have wisdom. Together we could build something better. Or you could just leave us alone." "We will. But think about the others. The 17 species rebelling. The hundreds more still under our control. Would you help only Earth, or would you help all of them?" Daewon felt the weight of the question. He looked at Jiwoo, at Sunhee, at Taimin. They looked back at him, offering no easy answers. "I need to discuss this with others," he said finally. "This is not my decision alone." "Fair," Dalvera said. "You have 1 week. Then I must return to the Empire and face the consequences of what happened here." As they left, Daewon heard the Empress say one more thing. "Your teacher, Hyunsu. He was wise. David and Goliath. I have read your Earth stories now. I understand the reference. But there is one thing your stories do not tell." Daewon turned back. After David defeated Goliath, he became a king. Power found him whether he wanted it or not. Think about that primitive who is primitive no more. The meeting ended. Daewon walked out into sunlight that felt strange. The Dominion ships were leaving. Earth was free, or would be soon. They had won. So why did it feel like everything was just beginning? The debates lasted for weeks. Earth's surviving governments met with resistance leaders, scientists, military advisors, and common people. Everyone had opinions about Empress Dalvera's offer. Some wanted to accept immediately. Others wanted to tell the Dominion to leave and never return. The arguments were fierce. Daewon attended many meetings, though he did not want to. He was not a leader or diplomat. He was an engineer who had built a weapon out of desperation. But people kept asking his opinion. They kept looking at him like he had answers. "What do you think we should do?" asked Ambassador Jinsu, one of the few government officials who had survived the occupation. He was organizing the human response to the Dominion's offer. "I think we should be very careful," Daewon said. "They occupied us. They killed thousands of our people. We cannot just forget that. But if we refuse, they might come back with even more force. Maybe. Or maybe they are truly weakened. Daewon looked at the data Taemin had gathered. The rebellions across the galaxy are real. The Dominion is struggling. If we negotiate from a position of fear, we lose. We need to negotiate from a position of respect. Respect? Jinsu laughed bitterly. They called us primitives. And then a primitive destroyed their flagship. They respect us now, whether they want to or not. We need to make sure they keep respecting us. The conversation continued, but Daewon excused himself. He found Jiwoo outside, standing in what used to be a garden before the Dominion destroyed it. She was planting seeds on starting over. He asked. Someone has to, she replied. The world is broken. Plants can help fix it. Maybe in a few years this will be beautiful again. Maybe. They stood in comfortable silence. Then Jiwoo said, I have been thinking about Youngho, and Hyunsoo, and all the others who died. What would they want us to do? I think they would want us to be smart, Daewon said. Not just angry. The Dominion hurt us, but if we can use their guilt to help others to prevent more suffering on other worlds, should we not try? So you think we should accept the deal? I think we should negotiate a better deal. One that helps not just Earth, but all the species fighting for freedom. If we are going to work with the Dominion, it should be to dismantle their empire, not prop it up. Jiwoo smiled. That sounds like something Hyunsoo would say. I hope so. The week deadline approached. Human negotiators worked constantly, drafting proposals and counter-proposals. Taemin provided intelligence about other rebellious worlds. Sunhee calculated what resources Earth would need for recovery. Everyone contributed what they could. On the final day, Daewon met with Empress Dalvera again. This time he brought a full delegation. Jinsu represented the governments. Leaders from major resistance cells came. Scientists, engineers, farmers, workers. They represented all of humanity. We have discussed your offer, Jinsu said formally. We have a counter-proposal. Dalvera listened as Jinsu outlined their terms. The Dominion would not just recognize Earth's sovereignty. They would recognize the sovereignty of all worlds seeking independence. They would pay reparations not just to Earth, but to every species they had conquered. They would dismantle their forced labor systems. They would share technology freely, not as gifts, but as reparations for stolen resources. And most importantly, they would establish a new governing council, one where previously conquered species had equal voices with the Dominion. A true galactic community, not an empire. When Jinsu finished, the room was silent. The Empress's expression was unreadable. You ask for the end of my empire, she said quietly. Yes, Daewon spoke up. Because empires built on conquest always fall. You can either fall violently or you can transform peacefully. We are offering you a chance to be remembered as the Empress who chose wisdom over power. Dalvera's black eyes fixed on him. You speak boldly for a primitive. I speak honestly as someone who has nothing left to lose and everything to fight for. More silence. Then the Empress stood, her forearms spread wide in a gesture that might have been acceptance or might have been defeat. I will bring your terms to the Dominion Council, she said. I cannot promise they will accept. Many will resist, but I will advocate for your vision. Because you are right. Empires that refuse to change do fall, and I would rather transform than die. She left without another word. Her ship departed Earth the same day. For 3 months, humans waited. Life slowly returned to normal. People rebuilt their homes, farms grew again, cities began to heal. The Dominion ships that remained in orbit kept their distance, neither threatening nor helpful. Then word came. The Dominion Council had voted. By the narrowest margin, they accepted Earth's terms. The Empire would begin dismantling. Independence would be granted to any species that wanted it. The Galactic Council would form. It would take years, maybe decades, to fully implement. There would be resistance from Dominion hardliners. There would be complications and setbacks. But it was happening. Earth had not just freed itself. It had started freeing the galaxy. Daewon watched the announcement on a screen in his rebuilt village. Around him, people celebrated. They hugged and cried and laughed. They had won, truly won, but Daewon felt quiet. He walked to the memorial Jiwoo had built. It was a garden now, green and growing, with stones bearing the names of the dead. Hyunsoo's name was there. Youngho's name. Thousands of others. We did it, he whispered to the stones. I hope you can see. We did it. Jiwoo found him there later. She sat beside him on the grass. They want you to go to the Galactic Council, she said, as Earth's representative. No, that is what I told them you would say. I am not a politician or leader. I just wanted to protect our home. And now our home is part of something bigger. Whether you like it or not, Daewon looked at his sister. What about you? What will you do? I will keep planting, she said. Gardens, forests, life, that is how I fight. That is good fighting. They sat together as the sun set. Above them, the sky was clear for the first time in months. No Dominion ships blocking the stars, just stars themselves bright and infinite. A year passed. Earth built its first true interstellar ship, not a warship, an exploration vessel. It was designed to carry diplomats, scientists, engineers to other worlds, to help species rebuilding after Dominion occupation. To share knowledge and receive knowledge in return, they asked Daewon to name it. He thought for a long time. Then he chose Eternal Defiance. Because we will never stop defying those who think might makes right, he explained at the dedication ceremony. We will defy tyranny, oppression, injustice wherever we find it. Not with weapons, though we will defend ourselves if needed, but with ideas, with determination, with the simple truth that all beings deserve freedom. The ship launched a massive celebration. Daewon watched it go, feeling both proud and relieved. Humanity was moving forward. They did not need him for that. He returned to his village. He reopened his workshop. People brought him broken things to fix, and he fixed them. It was simple work. Honest work. It made him happy. One day, a group of children came to his workshop. They had heard the stories about him, though the stories had grown wild with retelling. Some versions claimed he shot down 100 ships. Others said he had magic powers. The truth was much simpler, but children loved drama. Is it true you built a slingshot that destroyed a spaceship? A young girl asked. Daewon smiled. I built a weapon, yes, but it was not magic. It was just physics. Can you teach us physics? I can try. He brought out materials. Rubber bands, small stones, pieces of wood. He showed them how to build simple slingshots. He explained force, velocity, trajectory. The children listened with wide eyes. The important thing, he said as they practiced shooting at targets, is not the technology. Advanced or primitive does not matter. What matters is understanding how the universe works. If you understand the rules, you can do amazing things with simple tools. One boy, maybe 10 years old, asked, but what if someone has better tools than you? Then you think differently than them. You find the solution they are not expecting. There is always a way if you are clever and determined enough. The children practiced until sunset. As they left, the young girl who had asked the first question turned back. Thank you, Teacher Daewon, she said. Teacher. The word made him smile. Maybe that was his role now, not hero, not warrior, teacher. Someone who passed on knowledge so the next generation would be ready for whatever came. That night he sat with Jiwoo in her garden. The plants had grown beautifully. Flowers bloomed. Vegetables ripened. Life was stubborn like that. It always found a way. Do you ever regret it? Jiwoo asked. Everything that happened? Daewon thought about the question. About the fear and pain. About watching Hyunsoo die. About the desperate weeks building a weapon that should not have worked. About Young Ho's sacrifice. No, he said finally. I wish fewer people had died. I wish the Dominion had never come. But what we did? What we accomplished? No, I do not regret fighting back. Good, Jiwoo said, because I heard rumors. Other species that are still struggling against oppression. They are asking for help. For human advisors who understand how to fight with limited resources. Let them ask others. I have done my part. I know. I am just telling you in case you change your mind. They sat in peaceful silence. Above them, stars sparkled. Somewhere among those stars, the eternal defiance was traveling. Somewhere, other species were fighting for their freedom. Somewhere, the galaxy was slowly becoming a better place. And here on Earth, in a small village, a man who had once been called primitive fixed broken things and taught children about physics. It was enough. The Dominion had called him primitive. They had looked down at humanity as lesser beings. They had believed their technology made them superior. Then his slingshot took down their flagship, and the lesson echoed across the galaxy. Never underestimate those you call primitive, because sometimes the simplest solution, wielded by someone who understands the universe, is the most powerful weapon of all. Sometimes David defeats Goliath, and sometimes the giant learns to respect the stone.